crush your enemies.
They drew first blood, not me.
See them driven before you.
Oh, my user.
And hear the lamentation of your women.
But I pity the fool.
Glitter in the dark near the 10-house gate.
Phone home.
They're here.
Oh, real light sleeper, child.
Welcome to Vintage Video, where we're rewatching the 80s so you don't have to. We'll be reviewing every major film release of the 1980s in chronological order, overanalyzing what you've seen and spoiling what you haven't. I'm Patrick O'Reilly.
I'm Jesse Bayless.
And I'm Richard Wells.
And today we're discussing Porky's, re-released March 19th, 1982, after a very limited release in November of 81. It was written and directed by Bob Clark and released by 20th Century Fox.
Why did they re-release it?
Because it did well in the tests, but it didn't have a major studio backing for distribution until the following year.
I thought you were going to say they pulled it due to people being upset about it or something.
As far as I know, that was not the reason.
Also, it's not a great holiday family movie.
Maybe. As a 16-year-old attending a Florida high school in the 1950s, writer-director Bob Clark first began piecing together the plot of Porky's from his own personal experience, initially intending it to be a novel. In 1972, having established himself in the film world, Clark first considered recycling his aborted high school novel into a mainstream sex comedy, even borrowing the title from real-life Porky's Hideaway in Oakland Park, Florida. Technically, he co-wrote with Breaking Point collaborator Roger Swaybill. Understandably, all the major studios were not interested in producing such a raunchy period piece. Cue Melvin Simon Productions to swoop in and produce yet another title that the studios found too risky. Thus far on the show, Simon has done the same for The Man with Bogart's Face, The Stuntman, My Bodyguard, and Zorro the Gay Blade, to unanimous praise from us, and then a recent misstep with Choo Choo and the Philly Flash.
None of those are anywhere near this level of, risque, though.
Right. But his thing has always been, I believe in this product, and studios are too scared to put it out, so I'm going to put it out. Simon teamed with Harold Greenberg, head of Canadian Prodco Astral Bellevue Pathé, and negotiated for 25% of the production budget to be provided by regular Simon distributor 20th Century Fox. Porky's was shot in Florida, but produced in Canada, utilizing their infamous tax breaks to keep costs down. Because a second American writer in the credits would push them over the limits to qualify for Canadian film grants, co-writer Swaybill could not be credited alongside Bob Clark and was bought out of the credit with a 6-figure reimbursement, but is rightfully credited in the second installment.
So, wait, if he's credited in the second installment, does he have to give some of that money back?
No, because the second film was a different movie. It was funded a different way.
I thought you were talking about the second release.
No.
Okay.
No, in Porky's 2 the next day.
They weren't seeking the same tax credits on the second
film.
Right,
exactly. They had more money to distribute it professionally themselves. Porky's is often listed as a 1981 film thanks to a limited test run in Colorado Springs, Colorado and Columbia, South Carolina, but didn't actually go wide until March of 82. The MPAA slapped it with an X rating, and the filmmakers had to cut several extended nude scenes and reshoot Ken Cattrall's climactic scene to get it down to an R. On a budget of $4 million, Porky's absolutely exploded in theaters, hauling in around $130 million.
No way.
And placing 5th for the year, with a healthy lead over films like Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan and Poltergeist.
Wow, no kidding.
A re-release brought its total box office up to around $160 million, making it the highest-grossing Canadian film at the time, a record now held by Resident Evil Afterlife.
Nice.
Really?
Yeah, isn't that crazy? For the first couple weeks of its release, the film was banned in Ireland, but on appeal, the film was approved for distribution and became the first film in Ireland to ever gross over $1 million in the box office.
Wow.
That's what happens when you don't have porn on your phone.
I was going to say, I'm starting to feel a little bit guilty that I put this so low on the list.
Of course, all this money made a sequel inevitable, and Bob Clark agreed to come back to direct the sequel in exchange for greenlighting his A Christmas Story script, which they had already turned down. The film eventually amassed 2 3/4 sequels, but we'll discuss the plots of those at the end. The second and third official Porky's films, subtitled The Next Day and Porky's Revenge respectively, offered diminishing returns. A 1983 Porky's video game for Atari 2600 was also not especially beloved.
What would you even do in that video game?
I just ruined Porky's place, I guess.
I mean, if you're looking at any of the other Atari movie adaptations like Indiana Jones and infamously E.T., like, they're nonsense games. Like,
It's just Pac-Man, but it's all cherries. And Pee-wee is Pac-Man. In 1986, Troma released Hollywood Zap, an arcade-themed sex comedy that seems, from the poster, to be ripped off of the Zapped films with the same font, but was released in Europe under the title Porky's 4 Zap on account of the appearance of Porky actor Chuck Mitchell among the cast. In 2002, Howard Stern acquired the remake rights with Bob Clark's blessing and tried for years to set the project up with a major studio, making little progress. The remake was officially scrapped when multiple other companies claimed exclusive rights to the franchise, and a confidential settlement was reached in court between the three parties. In 2013, Lontano Investments moved forward with their super low-budget Porky's The College Years, later retitled Porky's Pimpin' Pee-wee, purely as a method of renewing their fast-expiring rights to the franchise. Amusingly, by spending less than $10 million on their direct-to-video sequel, some rumors indicate it cost as little as $500,000, it did not justify the contractual budget minimum required to preserve the rights to the property. Current ownership of remake and sequel rights to Porky's is murky at best. I know Howard Stern still really wants to do it, but it's getting less and less possible every year.
Yeah, I just don't, like, this movie can't exist nowadays.
Yeah.
and would you still set it in the 50s?
No, I feel like you said it in the 80s. Like, you update it to when it came out. But still, it wouldn't really work.
Or the 90s at this point.
Yeah, but I mean, I think the 80s would be more filmic in terms of if you're trying to tell that story.
I think you're also just getting old and not realizing that that's where the 90s are.
I'm not talking about math and how many years were between the period and the film. I'm just talking about the 90s aren't as iconic. There's not as much.
I don't know that that's true. What I'm saying is I think because you lived it, you're not feeling like it is.
But also
They're turning the 90s into Halloween costumes now. You like
they are, but they're shitty costumes. It's like, look, a shirt with
they were as
lines on
shitty
it.
as the 70s costumes were when we were kids.
No, 70s costumes actually.
Ooh, bell bottoms.
Yeah, bell bottoms and stuff.
Leather
and there's
fringe.
like froze and necklaces and stuff like that. And 80s had like all these like neon colors. The 90s, the aughts, the 2010s are all the exact same. They're all just stupid, boring clothes. There's literally nothing interesting in them.
I'm going to agree to disagree here.
If I saw a person wearing a 90s costume today, I wouldn't be like, cool 90s costume. I would be like, that's a person. If I saw an 80s costume or a 70s costume, I would get it right away. Dumbest trivia point. I don't know who writes these or how they decide that this is worth like typing into their computer. The meaning and relevance of this film's Porky's title was explained by Halliwells, who explicated, that's what it says, who explicated that the title refers to a redneck establishment out in the Everglades known for its available women.
No, that is
Halliwells said she explicated that that's what Porky's is. We open on some country rock jams over black, and then the screen lights up with a neon sign advertising Porky's, which will double as the film's title and the central strip club of the story. Surprisingly, the title card dissolves to an actual sign over the club, which also features a pair of cartoon pigs in human clothes. Before my research, I would have assumed that this was a Warner Brothers movie because I couldn't imagine Fox could get clearance to use a cartoon pig named Porky to advertise a strip club in a sex comedy, and yet they did. I don't know why this was allowed. The guy pig is in overalls and a cap, and the lady pig is in a red dress with species-appropriate pigtails in her species-inappropriate blonde hair. And the sign cycles a 2-frame animation where the guy pig leans toward her and her dress blows in the air to reveal her butt to him. The camera backs all the way across a parking lot full of early 50s vehicles. As the song fades out, the voice of Gene Morrison from WACN Radio takes over and wishes a good morning to the Angel Beach community on the South Florida shore. He launches into the day's news regarding Eisenhower's presidency as we watch Don Monahan, as our unfortunate protagonist Edward Morris, alias Pee-wee, wakes from another in a no doubt long line of wet dreams, confirmed for us when the camera slides back to reveal the distinct outline of an erect penis in his pajamas. Do you guys recall the last time we saw a DJ start the film and like introduce himself with his full name and the station he works for and then not play a part in any of the rest of the movie?
Oh, I was going to say, playing a part in the movie, I could think of American Graffiti, but...
No, more recent than that. He's talking about an upcoming regatta, if that helps.
Is it Jaws 2?
No,
No.
The other one.
There's a different regatta.
The other Jaws 2.
The shark, the last shark.
There you go, the last shark.
I literally couldn't think of the title of the movie. We just recorded it like 3 recordings ago.
His mother starts pounding on his bedroom door and his alarm buzzes across the bed. He struggles to hit snooze and tries to go back to sleep when his mother bursts in. He flips over to hide his erection and smashes it down into the mattress, which, if you've never done it, is not a pleasant sensation.
Unless you're J.D. Vance.
Unless you're J.D. Vance.
I don't know. That only works on couches.
No, that's good, yeah. His dad's car won't start, so he has to be downstairs early for breakfast to take his dad to work. She adds a few other chores to his morning. When she disappears again, he pulls a ruler out of his nightstand drawer to see if he's made any penile progress. Judging from the placement of his fingers when the ruler re-enters frame, he can reach about a third of the way across it.
Shit.
He literally pulls a giant graph out from under his mattress to chart the progress or lack thereof. Not clear why the historical growth is useful to him, unless he's experimenting with various elongation methods, but I wouldn't put it past Pee-wee.
Oh, it is. It's getting shorter. Shit.
He gets out of bed, and the camera pushes into a pennant flag over his headboard for Angel Beach High School, tacked up over a black and white photo of the school's entrance, and we cut right there. 2 cars drive beside each other past the school, and the drivers, who we'll come to know as Billy and Tommy, have a confusing but no doubt racist conversation that will make more sense to us later.
Hey, did you get the color guy? Does a fat dog fart? Well, what's he look like? Like an African Zulu man, 6'4", 2 huge gold teeth. Haha, great!
When they get parked, they talk a bit more, and it seems like Tommy hired a coworker of his father's for some kind of a scheme, but he's only charging them $10, which, since this is 1954, is the equivalent of 117-ish bucks today. A truck flies by and kicks up a huge dust cloud to choke them both.
Jarvis, you stupid redneck. Woo, you better duck, you suckers, when Jarvis is at the wheel.
When Mickey Jarvis catches up with them, he refers to the man they hired with an even less appropriate word, and they bother to correct him, which doesn't seem super 1954, but I wasn't there, so who knows.
Come on, Jarvis. You mean the color guy, the Negro.
Or white trash.
Fuck you and the horse you rode in on.
On their way to the door, they're met by Kaki Hunter as Wendy. Apparently, it's Tommy's job to get things for people, because Wendy's looking for something too. He says he'll have it for her soon.
I found a place that's got one. I'll go tomorrow.
Don't let me down. I'm going to get that little creep.
Who's she gonna get?
Pee-wee.
Turns out, Billy and Tommy set Wendy and Pee-wee up on a date, and when the time came, she pulled his dick out, and he was already wearing a condom. She ended the date immediately, and now she wants to get back at him for assuming in advance where things would go. Next, we follow a girl named Mindy up to a crowd of boys. The largest of the crew is nicknamed Meat, and she wondered why, so her friends pressured her to ask him directly. I would guess because he's also 3 feet taller than everyone else at this school and like huge muscle-bound crazy person. I wouldn't question for a second why this guy was called Meat.
'Cause you're so big?
Yeah, sorta.
Not sorta. Why?
You really want to know?
Yes.
Okay, come on, I'll show you.
Wait. She's only a freshman.
Eventually, his friends talk him out of risking another suspension and his Princeton scholarship. This sobers him up, and he lets the girl down easy. Pee-wee scrambles up to the quad, and as if Pee-wee wasn't a hurtful enough nickname, they start calling him Ready Eddie on account of the condom conundrum, but he doesn't care about all that. He just wants their assurances that he's invited to the upcoming road trip to a prostitute at some shack out in the swamp. Now we cut to a prank underway. A couple guys are handing eggs back and forth, trying to remember which ones are which. Pee-wee walks up to announce he's taking part in the field trip, and Tim holds the eggs and starts tossing them in the air for a bit.
What are you doing with those eggs?
What eggs?
What eggs? Those eggs.
Oh, these eggs.
Tim drops one on the sidewalk and it explodes, and then he reels back with the other egg.
They're for you.
For me?
He smashes it on Pee-wee's face, and at first he's terrified until he realizes the second one was hard-boiled and didn't make a mess. Pee-wee's so grateful not to be splattered with yolk that he falls in love with the prank and demands to pick the next victim with the last 2 eggs. Tim says they've gotten everybody but meat. Feigning reluctance, he hands Pee-wee the eggs very carefully, informing him which one is which. Of course, we all see where this is going a mile away. He drops an egg and confirms that he hasn't mixed them up, and then he smashes the second one in Meat's face, but of course, they're both raw eggs this time.
Well, we thought you'd like to wear one today.
Morris, you're dead.
I know.
Meat chases Pee-wee away, and suddenly Nancy Parsons, as Balbricker, walks through the squad wearing aviator sunglasses. Tommy calls her out with aggressive sarcasm.
Ma, you look nice this morning. Are you losing weight?
She pulls down her glasses to glare at him and then turns to leave. In the gym later, the boys practice a bit of basketball. When it's Tim Cavanaugh's turn to pass to the next kid, Brian Schwartz, he hurls it at the kid's feet.
Nice pass, Cavanaugh. Too bad, G-boy. Tim, what's your problem, man?
The coaches seem distracted from practice. Coach Warren keeps turning to catch young Coach Brackett as he stares at the bent-over girls coach, Miss Honeywell, played by Kim Cattrall. Coach Warren informs Coach Brackett that her nickname is Lassie, and assuming he's calling her a dog, Brackett is offended on her behalf.
Ow! Are you kidding? You calling her a dog? Oh, friend, that's angel food cake. You touch her and the Food and Drug Administration gets you for fucking food.
Warren refuses to explain his comment, but insists that if Brackett can talk her into the equipment room, all will become clear. A basketball rolls away from the court and into the girls' area, and Balbricker angrily kicks it away, reminding the head coach good enough that the boys shouldn't be encroaching in the girls' small section of the gym. We cut to the boys' locker room, where they're spying into the gym to keep track of which girls are headed to the showers. When Pee-wee reports that Ginny just went in, Billy reminds him Ginny is off limits and not to even consider spying on the girl. Unclear so far if she's a girlfriend, sister, or just a crush of Billy's, and we never really come back to this.
Yeah.
So who has any idea? Billy decides to broach the subject with Tim of inviting Brian to the prostitute tonight, but Tim shuts it down pretty quick, suggesting that after Jews, Billy will start inviting other minorities along. Slippery slope. Disappointed in his friend, Billy says to forget it. When a large group of girls head into the showers together, Billy, Tommy, and Pee-wee race to a crawl space from which they can unplug pipes from the wall and spy into the girls' shower. Unfortunately, by the time they reach their battle stations, they've just missed the shower scene. Pee-wee is obviously the most upset until his friends remind him he's getting laid tonight.
Yeah, you're right. I gotta go home and warm up. Warm up?
We jump cut to an alligator growling at the edge of a swamp at night. The camera pans to the right to follow the headlights of a passing car full of boys.
Do alligators growl?
They do. Usually when they're mating, but yeah, like when they're looking for mates.
Richard, why do we know this?
Oh no. They create this like crazy vibration in the water.
Oh.
Yeah, it's super cool.
That reminds me of that TikTok I think I showed you where the old man is reading a joke and he doesn't know the punchline of it. And the joke is like, did you know that pigeons die after mating? And he's like, no, I didn't know that. And he's like, the one I fucked did. The guy starts cracking up because he didn't know what the punchline he was about to read was. As the boys get closer to their destination, Billy mentions for apparently the first time that the girl he hired is named Cherry Forever, and the boys start getting rowdy. They pull up outside what looks like an abandoned one-room shack in the swamp. Tommy makes bird calls from the bushes, which are answered by flickers of lights inside the shack. The boys file in and fight with each other over which order they'll go in. Billy says Cherry Forever is a professional and needs to inspect everyone before they go in. Pee-wee seems confident he'll get first swing and yanks his clothes to the floor. Billy and Tommy tell the rest of the guys to get stripped down if they're serious.
Hey, wait a minute. How come you guys ain't getting undressed?
Yeah. We got inspected last week.
Cherry enters, played by Susan Clark, and walks down the row inspecting everyone's junk and cracking jokes about most of them.
Cherry, this is Pee-wee.
I'll say.
Eventually, she makes her way to meet.
My God, the boy's deformed.
Billy and Tommy head into the back room with Cherry and lift a black man in through the window. As we've established, they seem to be plotting something. The guys outside are still arguing their positions in line when suddenly they hear Cherry moaning from the back room in ecstasy. Tommy and Billy are now liberally splashing each other with fake blood in the back room, while Cherry continues faking a three-way with her moans. The guys outside worry that Cherry is expending too much energy on her first couple customers, forgetting apparently that her last name is Forever, and she could go all night, baby. Billy stands, bouncing on a mattress for added sound effect, and behind him on a wall is graffiti of that Kilroy was here creature. Billy hands Cherry a branch to break the window with, and the guys outside are confused by the new sound. The black man they lifted in through the window is finally invited to speak out loud.
What's going on, you motherfucker? I'll kill you, white boy.
We didn't know she was your wife. Besides, it wasn't me. It was him. I was just watching. It was just boring.
You're both dead men.
Raising a machete over his head, the guy kicks through the door into the next room where everyone's waiting. Terrified, the naked boys dive out every available window and door until they hear Machete Man cracking up in the doorway with Billy and Tommy. Most of the boys come back recognizing the prank, but Meat ran so fast he never heard the laughing, so Machete Man and the other naked boys race off into the night to find him. We cut inside a police car driving a country road on an uneventful night.
Now, don't worry. That'll change soon enough.
When suddenly a naked boy jogs past them in the dark.
What'd I tell you?
They pull a U-turn and it's Pee-wee. Apparently he also outran the punchline. Pee-wee, out of breath, puts a hand on the windowsill of the cruiser while he gasps for air.
Okay, let me see your driver's license.
We cut now to the Deadbeats Diner in town. All the other boys have now redressed, and even Meat is here. So it seems like when they said Meat's still running, they should have just said Pee-wee, because we never see them catch up with Meat and explain what happened. Mickey Jarvis, the third conspirator in the Cherry Forever prank, mocks Meat for falling for the scene, and Meat chases the kid away. A police car pulls up and Meat recognizes the officer in the passenger seat as Mick's older brother Ted. The cop steps out and returns Pee-wee to his crew.
Got something you guys lost in the Everglades.
Pee-wee is wearing an oversized patrolman's shirt and demands his clothes back. A scar-faced biker named Cavanaugh rolls up with a girl riding behind him. If you'll recall, this is the second character referred to as Cavanaugh, after the racist anti-Semite Tim character, and it turns out this is his dad, riding with a passenger younger than Tim. Mickey's brother, Officer Ted, tells him to lose the beer, and he tosses it over his shoulder into the beach sand. The elder Cavanaugh calls his son Tim over to chew him out for running in fright from a black man tonight. Who called him out already? Who immediately phoned his dad and was like, a black guy chased your son? Tommy explains to the guys that Cavanaugh Sr. is fresh out of prison, just as the man orders Tim to go home for the night.
What was he in for?
Manslaughter. Killed a guy in a fight towards your off with his bare hands.
His own ear? No. That'd be weird. You don't know where I've been, Lou. Just shaking ears at him.
I think it's a weird thing to say that he killed a man.
And then tore his ear off.
And tore his ear off. I'm like, maybe mention the part where you inflicted a mortal wound on this guy. Yeah. What else did he do to him? Because I'm pretty sure he didn't die of missing an ear.
Pee-wee interrupts the moment to complain again that he still hasn't been laid, and it's driving him crazy. The guys brainstorm who would possibly fuck Pee-wee if Wendy won't, and Meat suggests a horny midget.
Come on, Meat, I'm serious. Just trying to help.
Jarvis pipes in to suggest an actual existing establishment that offers just such a service.
Porky's.
Come on, Jarvis, don't start that stuff again. You crazy?
The guys laugh off the suggestion because Porky is terrifying, but Jarvis thinks they just gotta smooth talk the man. He tells them about a room at Porky's called Porky's Pen, where you can pay to party with Porky's dancers. Jarvis says the price amounts to $30 each, and everything goes, but they aren't totally sold. Tommy is the first to agree to the plan, and Pee-wee obviously can't turn it down. The next day we see the guys at school opening a Trojan brand pizza box, and inside is a novelty condom big enough to stand in. Apparently this is the gift that Wendy was asking for from Tommy at the start, so she takes it away with her. When Pee-wee shows up to school, she presents it to him as an award.
All right, a trophy. What for?
For being the biggest dickhead I ever went out with.
He laughs it off and walks away, but Wendy yanks it down over his head. The guys pass the giant condom around, and Tommy inflates it to approach the girls with. He pushes it into their butts with his crotch until Balbricker shows up to curtail the fun. Tommy's not paying attention and jams the condom balloon into her crotch before letting it deflate. Balbricker gestures for him to surrender the massive condom, and she throws it over her shoulder like Santa's sack. In the gym later, we get another moment of Coach Brackett noticing Lassie's butt and Coach Warren howling without explanation.
You're pulling the chain, Fred. The girl's a virgin. Yeah. And the Pope's Jewish.
That night, the guys ride their truck past the sheriff's station in Wallace Town.
Well, what the hell's Wallace? You're looking at it. It's just Porky stormtroopers. Porky Wallace. Get it?
Get this.
As they pull into Porky's parking lot, the boys are doing obnoxious Tarzan calls. They get excited when they notice they've parked next to an all-pink car with a silver pig for a hood ornament. It must be the Porky-mobile, or the Pig-mobile, I forget what they call it. Pee-wee sheepishly admits he forgot his ID. Everyone is understandably pissed, but Jarvis tells Meat to give Pee-wee one of his 2 IDs and to just use his school ID card for himself. I'm a little confused, though. Are these high school kids?
Yeah, so it doesn't make any sense. But
he says he's sorry he lost his ID, but he doesn't say fake ID. Are they using real IDs to get into this club? Because they're not old enough to drink or go to a strip club, I would think. Inside Porky's, a huge Confederate flag hangs on the wall, and dancers in lingerie do a conga line around the stage. Then we see that they're being led by a little person who has them all tied together like they're Santa's reindeer. The doorman is quick to let the boys inside while Pee-wee is still making bad excuses.
Yeah, it's been a couple of years since I've been to the old joint.
Yeah, for sure, regularly. Just stop talking and start drinking.
Pee-wee and Meat take front row seats to a dancer, and when she tells them a peek is 2, Pee-wee assumes she means 2 boobs until Meat explains she means $2. He pops the cash into her shoe, and she frees her tits for a couple seconds before tucking them back away. At another table, a customer gets out of hand, and a dancer kicks him in the face while other patrons drag him away. Jarvis grabs a hold of a bartender to ask about paying for some women tonight, and demands to deal directly with Porky. The bartender advises against it, but Jarvis is insistent. We get an epic tracking shot of Porky being led through the club by the bartender to the stubborn customer. I really love this shot. This is maybe my favorite shot of the whole movie.
Yeah.
Like looking through all the equipment piled up on the side, and you just see like the outline of this giant character being led down the hall. It's just perfectly cinematic. Porky informs them their $100 pool will not buy the 5 women they expected.
I'll give you 2 girls for an hour or 3 girls for a half hour.
That's all?
Hey, nobody's forcing you. Now, it's a long ride back home, and it's even longer with a heart on.
Okay, we'll take 3 for 30 minutes.
Okay, pick out what you want.
Porky demands payment in advance, and Tim gets a bad feeling. Porky points the guys to a dark room off the side of the main bar because he's clocked them as underage and can't afford to have people see his girls mingling with them in public. Jarvis hands their cash to the bartender, and the boys pile into the dark room Porky pointed out. Everyone else in the club seems ready for what's about to happen. They crowd around Porky as he flips a big switch, opening a trap door under the dark room and dropping the boys into the swamp beneath the club.
Which is kind of dangerous because we've already established that there be gators in the swamp.
Right, and they could also possibly drown. You don't know how competent they are as swimmers. 4 of the boys are just annoyed by what happened, but Jarvis is livid and marches right back inside demanding to see Porky. Porky accepts Jarvis's invitation to a fight, but as soon as they're outside, he shoves all 5 of the boys through a rickety wooden railing back into the water. Before they can get back on land, a police car arrives, driven by Alex Karras as the sheriff here, and he demands an explanation for what's going on. The cop asks which car is theirs, and Jarvis stupidly points it out. The cop takes his baton and bashes out all the lights, claiming they were broken before and issuing fines for each broken one. The boys scrape together what cash they can from their pockets to pay the fines, and even though they're short, the sheriff and Porky decide together to show leniency and let the kids go. They're advised not to venture out of Seward County again and to leave Wallacestown be. Back at the diner, they drown their sorrows in burgers and Coke. Jarvis isn't over the embarrassment and decides he's going back.
I thought they just gave up all their money for this fine. I was like, wait, they still had money to buy all this food? Because they have a huge pile of food.
Yeah. Not only that, they just spent $100 on sex they didn't have.
Right.
And then probably $30 on headlights they didn't need to buy. And now he comes back with like a whole basket of hamburgers. Mickey runs to his truck and the guys try to talk him out of it. When Mickey's brother Ted arrives, they fill Ted in on the situation and Ted teaches them something.
You know something? That scumbag sheriff sided with Porky.
Yeah, well, that scumbag sheriff is Porky's brother.
Oh, you're what?
Oh, man.
Do you guys recall the last time an alcohol provider big shot in a town was actually the brother of the sheriff in the same county? Last time they were identical twins played by the same actor.
Oh.
That feels like a Smokey and the Bandit kind of thing. Or...
It's kind of like that, but it's older. It was a 70s movie. I mean, Smokey and the Bandit is a 70s movie also, but this is one that we've covered on the show.
Oh, we covered one of those.
Yeah, we covered
the second one.
It's black and white. One of my favorite movies of all time. Our daughter's named after one of the main characters.
Okay. Yeah. Paper Moon.
That's right. How'd you get it? Ted warns his brother that Porky will just beat the shit out of him every time he comes back forever. The man is dangerous, and he doesn't care.
I mean, he's playing around with you now, but he's going to get tired of you, then he's going to hurt you bad.
Mickey drives off into the night, and we cut to the gym the next day, where Coach Brackett and Miss Honeywell are flirting some more. Balbricker walks up to remind her the girls are awaiting instruction. When she leaves him, Coach Warren saddles up to howl some more without explaining. During a basketball game, Tim Cavanaugh trips Brian Schwartz, and the coach sees it and orders him out of the game.
You're suspended indefinitely. Nobody who plays like that plays for me.
Later, when they all get into the locker room, Tim is clearly furious and tries to refer to Schwartz with a slur for Jewish people, but isn't smart enough to know he's saying it wrong.
Anybody want to go fly a kite with me tonight? I think it's great weather for flying kites. I wonder if there are any kites around here we can fly.
Schwartz is forced to embarrass him further by correcting the mistake in front of everyone.
You know, you're too stupid to even be a good bigot.
Tim tries to attack Brian, but Billy and Tommy hold him back. Later, they settle their differences with a fist fight, but Brian punches Tim repeatedly until plainclothes Coach Brackett runs up to pull the boys apart. He tells them to shake hands to end it, but Tim walks away in a huff. Later, Billy and Tommy ask Brian where he learned to fight, and he says growing up Jewish teaches you fast how to defend yourself. Billy calls Tim a smuck, and again Brian has to correct their pronunciation. They apologize to Brian for their friend's actions, but for some reason insist on staying friends with Tim, and Brian claims to understand. Back at Deadbeat's Diner, Pee-wee and Meat are in the parking lot at a payphone, calling the number of the phone inside. Wendy, an employee here, answers the phone, and they pull a Bart Simpson on her.
Hello. Hi. I'm looking for a friend of mine. He's supposed to be there.
What's his name?
His name's Michael Hunt. Mike, yes, Mike.
Mike Hunt? Okay, just hang on a minute. Is Mike Hunt here?
And Wendy plays the perfect Mo Sizzler.
Has anybody seen Mike Hunt?
Practically everybody in town from what
I think those moments on The Simpsons are actually specifically inspired by this one from this film.
You think?
Yeah. Although I don't think they've done Mike Hunt on
No.
Simpsons.
No. They did Huge Ass.
Yeah. I still think it would be funny if he never corrected himself. And she was like, is there a Michael Hunt here? And Pee-wee was just like, ha, ha, ha. Like he didn't realize that what she was saying didn't mean anything because he forgot to say Mike. At the door, we see a pair of cops entering slowly, and they approach Meat, who looks pretty wasted, sitting at the bar over a bowl of chili. His friends notice he seems upset about something. Actually, I wanted to mention this shot of the two cops walking up. I think the cinematography in this film is actually beautiful. I think it looks really great. I think it's very stylistic of the 50s, and so much of it seems styled specifically as like Norman Rockwell paintings. Like it looks like that kind of lighting, and all the faces and the casting was done in a way that all the faces are reminiscent of the 50s, which obviously plays a part later in A Christmas Story, which does a lot of the same thing. But there's this one shot of these cops when they step up into the light in the bar, and it looks just exactly perfect lighting like a Norman Rockwell painting to me. I was just like, it's such interesting imagery the whole way through the movie. I think that there's a lot of work being put into the lighting here that I don't think you even notice because so much of the rest of the movie is just slapdash and improvised.
I was gonna say, I feel like you're looking for something to compliment.
I seriously don't think I am. I'll show you the shot I'm talking about, but
you might be right.
Yeah.
I feel like I was too distracted by everything else to notice the
there's
value
a lot to
in
take
any of these shots.
For sure. Turns out, Meat's application to Princeton was rejected, and even though he was accepted many other places, that was where he had his heart set. The cops notice Meat appears disheveled, and the boys try to straighten him out as they approach. They lie that he's just diabetic and mash sugar cubes into his mouth, but he spits them out in the faces of the police and other patrons. He falls face first in his chili, where they leave him for a moment.
Gee, I've never seen anybody drown in a bowl of chili before.
Me neither. I wouldn't even know how to fill out the forms on that.
Yeah, you're right. It'd be a lot of hassle. I guess we better save him.
Yeah, I guess we better.
When the police threaten to arrest everybody if Meat can't pass a breathalyzer, they come forward and admit, yeah, he's drunk. But Brian takes time to elaborate that Meat was just heartbroken over being dumped earlier, and he begs the officers for understanding. They let it slide this time if Meat's friends can get him home safely. The rest of the guys thank Brian for his smooth talking. Before they can even get Meat outside, Mickey's truck skids back into the parking lot, and he hangs out of the driver's side window brutally beaten. He even collapses to the ground, but when he overhears them planning to take him to a hospital, he jumps back in his truck and peels away again. In the locker room the next day, Tim's face is all bruised and bandaged. He's unloading the contents of his gym locker into a basket to return his team uniform since he can't play anymore. At first they assume it's from his fight with Brian, but eventually learn that Tim's dad beat the shit out of him for losing a fight with a Jewish kid. Even though Tim picked the fight with him out of sheer anti-Semitism, Brian feels guilty for Tim's home abuse and goes to speak with the head coach on Tim's behalf. Elsewhere in the gym, Coach Brackett leads Lassie up the steps to the equipment room, where Warren explained her nickname will reveal itself. Balbricker tries to interrupt them again, and the encounter devolves into name-calling, and eventually Balbricker claims she can get Honeywell fired for moral turpitude. They head the rest of the way to the equipment room and overhear the tail end of Brian's conversation with the coach. Suddenly, Honeywell reacts as if she smells something. She explains that it's the sweat on the hanging clothes and it's getting her hot.
The boys' locker room always turn me on.
She leaps onto Coach Brackett and starts kissing him ravenously. She pulls his pants down, and he pulls her undies and skirt off immediately. They start fucking over a table, and we cut back to the gym. As the sex gets louder and more passionate, Honeywell breaks into piercing howls that can be heard throughout the gymnasium. As soon as Coach Warren hears it, he can't hold back his laughter, and head coach Goodenough doesn't understand what's going on.
Why do they call you Lassie?
Despite the sounding alarm, Coach Brackett refuses to cut things short. Warren is laughing so hard that he literally has to hide under a sheet of padding draped over the bleachers, but the actor's laughing is so forced that it actually becomes annoying and kills the entire joke that they've spent like 3 scenes setting up. When Coach Goodenough finds him, he blames gas for his bizarre behavior, and minutes later, Coach Brackett returns to blame the sounds everyone heard on his own bathroom troubles.
Boy, it hurt like hell. You probably heard me all the way out here.
Must be catching.
How's that?
I hope you haven't grown too attached to Angel Beach, Coach Brackett.
In the lockers, the guys invite Mickey on a beaver shoot, their clever nickname for spying on the girls' showers, but he's weirdly disinterested. They worry he might have designs on another Porky's assault and warn him against it, but he assures them there's nothing to worry about. As he watches them leave together, we can tell he's lying. Back at the showers, the boys have timed their visit much better, and at first, 7 fully nude women are visible in the showers, but after a moment, an 8th girl leans into frame, blocking Pee-wee's view.
Damn it! What's wrong?
It's Blubber McNeil. I can't see a thing, damn it. You be quiet.
He tries to steal a peek through the other boys' peepholes, but they won't give them up. When the girls start leaving, Pee-wee finally loses it.
God damn it, will you move it, you lard ass?
Billy and Tommy are dumbstruck by this decision. Wendy is the first to deduce that the boys are watching them through these holes in the wall, and when, impossibly, they see the fun in the situation, Tommy decides to make it a game.
Don't be alarmed, girls. This is just your health department. We're here to check out all unlicensed pussies. Please step forward and spread your legs.
Yeah, what are you checking for?
Originality, neatness, and hygiene.
Tommy takes things a step further by sticking his tongue through the peephole at them. When a girl steps forward, Tommy seems very optimistic that she isn't just going to kick his tongue and literally destroy his mouth for life, but instead, Wendy takes a handful of soap residue and slaps it over his tongue. Tommy is angered by the prank, and as revenge, stands to poke his penis through the same hole. As soon as the girls figure out what's coming through, the girls scream and back off, but after a while, Balbricker enters the locker room behind them.
The revenge is sticking your penis through? Isn't that just putting you in more peril?
Yeah. Right? So much scarier than your tongue, and the tongue is already a terrible idea.
Right?
Pee-wee almost warns Tommy, but Billy decides it's too funny not to let this just happen.
Hey, hold still, man. She's coming for it. Are you shitting?
Even if it wasn't Balbricker, why would Tommy fall for the same prank from the girls twice in a row? They literally just said she's coming for it about his tongue. Because Tommy can't see that it's just Balbricker now, he lends his penis a cartoon voice.
Hi, I'm Paulie the Penis, and I just love to have fun.
Balbricker starts a guttural scream as she runs across the showers to grab the cock sticking out of the wall. How thick do you think this wall is, by the way? That his dick is sticking that far out of it on the other side.
It can't be very thick.
Yeah. Billy and Pee-wee make a run for it, and somehow Balbricker is confident exactly who she's grabbed a hold of, despite masking his voice. Unclear what exactly her plan is, if it's not to tear this boy's penis off of him or yank him through the wall.
I think yanking him through the wall would have been funny.
Sure.
Like, that's what this scene needed, was a joke. Like, her actually, like, using enough force to pull him through the wall by his dick would have been hilarious.
As it stands, all she's doing is giving him a deep tissue hand job, and unfortunately, he's too panicked to appreciate it.
Oh, God.
Judging from her pleas for the girls to bring the principal around, I guess she just wanted to hold him in place until he could be apprehended. But he manages to break away, and we cut right to Principal Carter's office, where she's pitching her plan to catch the culprit. Behind their sidebar, all three coaches are trying desperately to hold in their laughter.
5 young boys in the nude. A police lineup so that you can identify his tallywhacker. Please, can we call it a tallywhacker?
She doesn't realize how crazy she sounds, but she's also reporting a sexual assault, and they aren't offering a reasonable counteroffer. Coach Brackett makes a joke suggestion of calling in a police sketch artist, but he keeps adding more and more details until Coach Goodenough and even Principal Carter burst into uproarious laughter, and Balbricker rushes out furious. The camera zooms into a portrait of Eisenhower on the wall, and it's as Norman Rockwell as the film can possibly get, because this is literally a Norman Rockwell painting of Eisenhower. And then it's back to the boys' locker room, where Tim Cavanaugh is getting his equipment back after Brian asked them to let him back on the team. We cut to a school dance where Wendy wanders the dance floor making an obnoxious beeping noise and stops beside Billy, Tommy, and Pee-wee.
Beep, beep, beep. What's that, Wendy?
It's a shit detector. Beep, 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 beep.
She beeps it in Pee-wee's face and then returns to dancing with Tommy. Billy wonders aloud where Mickey ended up, and they ask his chaperone, Meat, but Meat says he lost track of him.
I don't know, man. He gave me the slip.
Elsewhere at the dance, we hear Tim's dad chanting anti-Semitic slurs at Brian Schwartz and a crowd of confused onlookers. He entices Brian into a fight, but before it can start, Tim shoves Brian aside and orders his dad to leave.
Well, who you talking to, boy?
Trash, pure trash.
Now, son, that's no way to talk to your pa.
You know, I really wish you wouldn't have said that. Because you don't know how humiliating it is to have anybody know you're my pa.
Mr. Cavanaugh backhands Tim hard, and Meat tries to jump in, but the boys hold him back.
Make sure you're finished. Because this is the last time you ever lay a hand on me again, you son of a bitch.
Cavanaugh wails on his son and eventually lifts him in a chokehold until Mickey's brother, Officer Ted, shows up with a sharp jab in Cavanaugh's face. Tim won't press charges, but says to leave him there on the floor.
If you ever come near me again, I swear to God, I'll kill you.
Like I'm gonna make a man out of you yet, boy.
A man? If being a man means being what you are, I'd rather be queer.
Cavanaugh tries to stand, and Tim shoves him back to the ground. After Dad leaves, Billy offers up a place for him to stay. Tommy takes note of the fact that the girl dancing with Meat is taller than Pee-wee by almost a foot, so he makes them trade dancers.
Yeah. That satisfies my sense of proportion.
Suddenly, they hear more screaming from the opposite end of the dance, and even Billy is annoyed at the lazy writing.
What the hell is this tonight, Looney Tunes?
Speaking of not being a Warner Brothers movie. This time, it's Mickey back from another failed attack on Porky's. He's covered in blood and gasping for air. Coach Brackett presumes broken ribs and a collapsed lung, so they call an ambulance. When the ambulance pulls away, it seems Porky's abuse of Mickey has pushed his older brother, Officer Ted, too far, and he intends to sort this out himself. The boys offer to come with, but he can't risk their involvement. Brian steps forward with a plan that means nobody gets hurt, and Ted doesn't get fired, and Ted is ready to hear it. When Coach Brackett hears they're planning revenge on Porky, he's willing to put his job on the line to take part, because he sucks at it anyway. He shows them a scar he got in a fight with Porky 6 years ago, and he's longed for a way to get back at him.
I think we'll have to come back to it, but I question the concept of this is a plan where no one would get hurt.
Right. I mean, they minimized casualties. Yeah, none of them would get hurt. That's true, maybe. Maybe. I can see other ways this could go wrong. Brian hops in his car to do what he calls reconnaissance for the secret mission, and Tim decides to tag along and take the opportunity for the slightest steps toward an apology for his behavior this entire film.
Look, when we go to Porky's, do me a favor, okay? Don't tell him your name is Schwartz. Those guys are prejudiced out there.
All right, what about Patty Aloysius O'Brien?
Nah, too Jewish. Let's not take any chances.
We cut now to a short bridge over a creek into the Porky's parking lot, and underneath we see Tim and Brian wiring it with explosives. Next, we cut to the Wallace police station, where Pee-wee does something similar to the underside of a police cruiser. Inside Porky's, we see a little person rolling a drunk out in a wheelbarrow, and they pass over a plaque in the sawdust-covered floor commemorating Sam Big Globber Puckett and his record spit of 44 feet and 6.5 inches on November 4th, 1952, perhaps coincidentally the night of Eisenhower's election. Underneath Porky's club, which is built over the water, we see the boys swimming around with a chainsaw. They use it to cut notches in the pillars holding up the building, but we can tell it's not running, and they're basically using it like a handsaw, which is the only way you could possibly operate this tool without drawing the attention of everyone inside.
Yeah. The fact that there's like no sawdust at all coming off of it, and again, they're just like,
Yeah. Brian and Coach Brackett string wires from the pillars to a pair of speedboats in the water beside Porky's. The two teams of teenagers signal each other with bird calls to indicate the trap is set. They wait hours for Porky's to empty out. Billy heads inside when they're closing up and shouts "Suey" to summon Porky. They laugh it off at first, but then call Porky to attend to his guests.
Oh, Porky! The boys from Angel Beach are here!
Porky and his friends come out the front door of the place with weapons in hand. Showing off his bat, Porky reels it back and taps one of his own henchmen in the face. It doesn't look intentional, but it's a really great moment for the film's purposes. He swings it this way and hits the guy in the nose. Porky advises the boys to just leave now while they still can. The boys pile into a tow truck to drive away, while the other guys in the water start their speedboats and pull the supports of the club in separate directions. Porky and his goons are thrown into the water when the platform under them collapses right away.
But, this is not just the platform under them. This is, the entire structure.
Yep, yeah.
And, there could be more people inside,
I mean, the point was that they were waiting until the employees had left, but obviously they hadn't all left because one of them is going to come out in a second here. But, yeah, there were still a lot of people inside. At the Wallace police station, Sheriff Wallace hears concerning sounds and rallies his troopers to address the situation. Inside Porky's, lighting fixtures are exploding all over and throwing sparks around the club. As his goons drag him up out of the water, Porky reaches desperately for the neon sign over his club, fearing the worst. The supports give way, and the club starts to fall in half from the inside. With one final snap, the entire face of Porky's tears loose from the building and tips into the parking lot. The Wallace police start their cars, and when they slam on the gas, the vehicle is actually in reverse and plows through the station house, nearly crushing Sheriff Wallace as he dives out the back window into the water. And the car fully clears him, flying through the air. It's a really cool stunt, because you can tell there's actually a stuntman who jumped through the window first before the car came through. Soaked and devastated, Porky looks at the wreckage of his club and swears vengeance on the boys. They pull the tow truck out of the parking lot, and when Porky calls his men to bring the pigmobile around, the kids blow up the main bridge on the way out. There is unfortunately one more exit, and when Pee-wee pushes down the plunger for those explosives, they don't go off, and Porky makes it out of the lot. Sheriff Wallace and his men pile into the remaining squad car, and once they're in it, the wheels fall off immediately. The sheriff sees Porky's pigmobile driving by and flags it down to ride along with them. Porky, his henchmen, and the sheriff chase the kids down the dark country roads back towards Seward County, and we get quick inserts of a marching band waiting in darkness. Once they get over the county line, a row of cars flip on their headlights, and the marching band strikes into a song blocking the road. Luckily, Porky didn't just plow through them all.
Yeah.
Which is what I feel like he might be tempted to do in this situation where he has nothing left to lose. Porky demands Officer Ted arrest the boys, and this entire plan would have completely failed if Porky hadn't for no reason misspoken right here.
They just destroyed my nightclub.
How'd they do that, sir?
They've been coming in there for the past few weeks.
Oh, which one's been coming in?
This one and that little bastard back there.
You mean this 16-year-old and this 17-year-old youngster been in your establishment?
There's no reason Porky would have worded it like that, because they've been coming in and he's actually been doing what he's supposed to do and throwing them out.
Right.
He would have made that point here, but instead he worries he'll be prosecuted for serving minors and retracts the entire statement. His brother, Sheriff Wallace, doesn't understand why Porky's changing the story and tries to back it up. Beyond that, He wants the boys booked on felony charges for destroying the private property that is his 2 squad cars and the police station. Officer Ted Jarvis wonders if he could book Sheriff Wallace for anything, since he's in Seward County now. He walks over to the Pigmobile and bashes out the headlights, announcing fines for each shattered bulb. He takes a shotgun and blasts out the front driver's side tire and then the radiator through the hood before taking aim at Porky's silver pig hood ornament and blasting its head clean off. Porky is quick to hand over cash for the fines he's incurred and silences his brother so they can return to Wallacestown unarrested. Officer Ted tells them to push their car back over the line, and the class of Angel Beach High School celebrate their victory in the road. Tommy and Brian float up in speedboats to join the party. The picture shrinks to picture-in-picture for the credits to roll up the right side, and all the celebrating is making Pee-wee sad on the left side. Porky's was his only chance at getting laid, and now it's gone. Wendy agrees to jump on the grenade and take one for the team that is all women. They head into an empty school bus together to get it over with, and Pee-wee emerges seconds later asking for a rubber, but when they give him one, it's too big, so they tell him to tie a knot in the end of it. In the weeds off the road, we see a shape sneaking around watching the kids. The person in the bushes turns out to be Balbricker, and she charges into the celebration to tackle Tommy Turner and confirm that his penis is the one she saw through the wall in the girls' showers. Unfortunately for her, Officer Ted is here to promptly arrest her for the assault. Seconds later, Pee-wee is leaning out the windows of the bus to celebrate having lost his virginity in record time, and the camera drifts over to Tommy on the sidelines, who looks directly into camera for the film's final line.
Cheese!
The end.
Yeah,
that's the last line? Cheese?
I put cheese?
Oh, like because he's looking into a camera?
I was like, did he say cheese or G's?
You say cheese or keys. I'll bring the beards. Sequels. Almost the entire cast come back the next year, including writer-director Bob Clark for Porky's 2 the next day. Now, I know what you're thinking. The next day? How could Porky's 2 possibly take place the next day? The entire club was literally obliterated. There's no way Porky's even exists the next day. And you'd be dead right. Not only is there no Porky's Club in the second film, Chuck Mitchell, the title character of Porky's, never appears in the second film at all. But it's still called Porky's 2. It starts with a 4-minute montage of every famous moment from the first film. This time, the central focus of the film is a Shakespeare play, overseen by Pee-wee's mother, the drama teacher. Somehow, the play has got the attention of a local televangelist who thinks the plays are too sexual to be performed by children, and so the whole story is kids facing off against this angry, self-righteous preacher character. One thing I do like about the sequel is that Balbricker seems devoted to the preacher guy, but late in the film, when he needs more physical force, he recruits a local chapter of the KKK, and she gets a redemption arc when she turns on the man immediately because she can't bring herself to side with the unrepentant racists. There's also a lot of character building for Kaki Hunter's Wendy character when we learn that despite the implications of the first film, Pee-wee was only the third guy she'd ever been with, and she didn't let rumors of her promiscuity bother her. She slept with Pee-wee because she actually wanted to, or so she claims in the second film. Porky's 3, Porky's Revenge. Bob Clark steps away but retains character credits for the third installment. The director's chair is taken over by TV director James Womack, and almost the entire major cast is back again to celebrate their final month of high school. As the title would suggest, Porky is back in town, this time operating a riverboat casino in the waters behind the rubble of his former establishment. The guys have a state championship basketball game coming up, and they learn that Coach Goodenough is in terrible debt to Porky. They make a deal with Porky to throw the championship to make up for their past disagreements, but instead they plan to win the game so that Goodenough can bet on them, make his money back, and Porky will lose all his money on the same bet. The fourth film, Porky's Pimpin' Pee-wee. Direct-to-video remake that takes place in present day for some reason, directed by Brian Trenchard Smith of Stunt Rock, Frog Dreaming, Leprechauns 3 and 4 fame. Porky's mom is played by Colleen Camp, but there's almost nobody else recognizable in the story. It's essentially a remake of the first film, and then it goes beyond that, because after they destroy the club, there's like a few other chapters to the story. But they shot it in like 2 weeks for $500,000. It's trash. Hollywood Zap. Completely unrelated to the Porky series, except that it was released as Porky's 4 in Europe, because Porky's actor Chuck Mitchell is a scumbag lawyer character for like one scene. directed by David Cohen of Friday the 13th, Part 5. It's a story about two guys taking a road trip to Hollywood, one to find his dad, and the other, as the IMDb summary proclaims, to find the ultimate sexual video game competition. Whatever the fuck that means. He's actually trying to achieve Twin Galaxies' high score on the Sega arcade game Zaxxon. But the gamer guy looks like a modern-day Curtis Armstrong. There's like 20 years between these two guys.
Yeah.
But that's the Porky's series, if you want to consider those last two Porky's films at all. But yeah, that's Porky's. I don't know if there's a lot of nostalgia going on that makes me appreciate it because I was the age that these movies were aimed at when I first saw it. And so I enjoyed it the way I was supposed to, and I still enjoy it. I think it's fun. I think it's so much better shot and better acted and better directed than so many of the sex comedies that we've done so far. People feel like actual people. It's like halfway between a Gorp and a John Hughes movie, where we're starting to make these feel like actual characters from like 50s period pieces.
I don't know if I agree with you on that. Maybe it is the nostalgia for you. I've never seen Porky's before.
But you've seen Gorp and you've seen
I know, and I hated
Up
Gorp.
the Academy. Yeah,
and
this is a
Up
huge
the
step
Academy.
above those, you have to admit.
I put this right there with those other movies.
Are you kidding? That's
No.
insane to me.
I
think you need to rewatch those other movies then, because they're so obnoxious every scene.
They are obnoxious. This one is maybe ever so slightly better.
It's a lot better.
But I have no purpose. I have no reason for this movie. Like there's nothing here for me.
No, I don't doubt that that's true. But it's so much better made.
Never
just from a
ever have to
filmmaking
see this
perspective.
movie again. Like
Sure.
yeah.
Richard, what are your thoughts?
Well, I have a lot of conflicting thoughts about it. I feel like I have probably seen Porky's because like I have an older brother and I feel like that's like a kind of movie he would have had on, at the time. I have to say I was surprised that it wasn't as sexy as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, I remembered it sexier than I did coming back to it.
There's the shower scene. That's essentially it. Otherwise, the majority of the scenes before that are male nudity. Yeah. And I was really surprised at how much male nudity.
You should see the second movie.
And I was just like, I thought people revered this movie as like a sexy comedy for the guys. It's like, is it for the guys?
It's like they didn't specify which guys.
Yeah,
but the second film, they literally like kidnap the entire like KKK chapter and strip them and make them like run through like a public meeting. And so there's like literally like 40 older dudes fully naked walking around with their dicks out the whole time. And it's like, that's crazy that there's 40 Nazi dicks in this movie and like 3 boobs or something like that.
Now, I feel like you said something like along the lines of like you mostly watched this on TV.
Yes, on Comedy Central.
What was left of it? Because like
literally the only thing they take out is the shower scene.
That's it?
Pretty much. I mean, they might zoom in a little bit for Kim Cattrall's howling moment.
What about like the racial slurs and stuff like that?
Oh yeah, I mean they just put different ones in that were TV safe. But there's not that much to take out of it.
I guess.
Okay, so the next year Bob Clark made A Christmas Story. This feels like it could be the same universe as The Christmas Story to me.
I don't
know.
In terms of the reality, and the style of the characters being all from the 50s and everything, there's nothing that happened in this movie that would never have happened in a second A Christmas Story if they continued it.
I would feel American Graffiti feels more in the Christmas Story universe than this movie does.
I agree with Richard on this
but
one.
American Graffiti is like so dark. The whole thing is shot at night with like barely glints of highlights on everything. This looks like Christmas cards the entire time. Like even Porky's looks like Christmas cards the entire time. Everything looks hand drawn practically. It's so bright and colorful.
I don't know. Just in terms of like the feel and the realness of the characters and the nostalgia, like it American Graffiti definitely feels more in line with that for me too.
Yeah.
I think
agree to disagree. I
think because this is a very horny movie. Like it's.
I mean, there's a horny character in it, but like you said, there's not a lot of.
No, there's not a lot,
here.
but all the guys are trying to score. I mean, they're all trying to get with the prostitute.
Right, yeah.
But I think one of the things I did like about the movie was they're playing pranks and they're all pretty generally okay with it.
Yeah.
Like they get pranked and they go, oh, you got me good. I'm going to get you next time.
Yeah.
And it's even that with the girls. Like they prank the girls and the girls prank them back.
Yeah.
And it's all very, it's not like, it's like, we got to get those girls. It's like, no, the girls are in on it.
Yeah.
They're a part of this group. I liked that aspect of it.
I do like that. And usually it's because of his horniness, but that Pee-wee is almost always the butt of the joke, and that as soon as he realizes it, he's like, oh, okay, whatever, but I'm about to get laid, so it's fine. Like, he thinks he's about to get laid, so he's just in a good mood because he thinks he's about to get laid.
I would have liked this movie better without Pee-wee at all.
Sure, yeah, no, he's grating for sure.
I feel like he was annoying, he was cringy. I was just
but
like,
he's supposed to be.
Yeah, but
he's like the
like,
Robert Wool character in Hollywood Nights, where you're just like, shut the fuck up.
But I feel like Pee-wee and Meat are the only two recognizable characters in this. Everybody else could be the same person. Like nobody else has a distinct personality.
I agree that Tommy and Billy didn't need to be two people because they play the same part. They're both in basically all the same scenes together the entire time.
I couldn't tell that when Jarvis comes up the second time all beaten up and the guy's going to I'm going to Porky's. I completely had forgotten that he was a cop because he looks just like the same age as all the other characters.
Well, because he's only like a few years older. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's not in uniform. And I was like, I don't remember this guy. Like, who's this guy?
He just showed up and he said he's going to fight Porky for them.
And then he's listening to high school students lay out a plan of revenge. I was like, who is this person?
Yeah.
And then I realized he's the cop. I was like, that doesn't seem like it would happen. But this movie also was like too many ideas. I can see it working in a novel of chapters like, oh, this is this crazy night, or this is this crazy thing that happened on this night.
It does feel like something that someone was writing for 30 years on and off.
Yeah.
Because it's just a bunch of stories that are like kind of mixed together, and it's like, did we touch on that one enough? Did we touch on this one enough? But there's enough connective tissue that I think it works as a coming of age sex comedy, and that it's leaps and bounds better than most of them that we've covered in the 80s so far. There's not like jokes that I didn't even understand the point of them in this movie, or just people like making the same weird sound effect for like 10 minutes or screaming for every scene.
I agree those things are terrible in the other movies. I don't agree that this one is leaps and bounds better.
Well, then you're crazy.
Well, you're going to love my placement then.
That's fine. What are we thinking Letterboxd for this? I'm giving it a thumbs up, obviously.
What's a thumbs down?
Oh boy, this is putting me on the spot. I would probably give it a thumbs up because I feel like it's one of those movies of like, hey, you guys want to watch like this really weird kind of sex comedy from the 80s?
Yeah.
Porky's. It's iconic. And it wasn't as sexy as I thought it was going to be. Iconically sexy. It was actually a revenge story.
Yeah.
Of like, we're going to take down this big bad guy. I was like, oh, I was not expecting this from the plot. I thought it was literally just going to be American Pie the whole movie.
I thought that because Comedy Central played them all with about the same regularity. So I had scenes from the first movie, the second movie, and the third movie in my head and thought they were all from Porky's when I was sitting down to watch this. So when it ended, I was like, oh, they didn't do the religious thing, or they didn't do like the stuff with the casino boat. Like, where was all that stuff? And it's like, oh, that's from separate movies. But they did them all so close together that they actually fit together pretty well, even if the writing does kind of drop off in the third movie. But yeah, thumbs up for me. What are we thinking Letterboxd, Jess?
So I have this at number 36 out of 41.
Okay.
It's below personal best, but above final assignment.
Richard?
I have it at 22nd.
Okay.
Which puts it below Butterfly, but above Parasite.
I have it at 8th, which is just under Evil Under the Sun and just above Death Trap. Our writer-director here was Bob Clark. Before this, he directed Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things, recent Patreon poll loser Dead of Night, Black Christmas, Breaking Point, and Murder by Decree. So far on the show, we've seen his previous film, Tribute, and he's back next season with both Porky's 2 and Christmas Story, or A Christmas Story. Later, he directs Baby Geniuses and Super Babies, Baby Geniuses 2. The music here was from Paul Zaza, Canada's only composer. Before this, he scored Clark's Murder by Decree and so far on the show Hog Wild, Prom Night, The Kidnapping of the President, My Bloody Valentine, Gas. Later he scores Curtains, A Christmas Story, Meatballs 3, Hello Mary Lou, Prom Night 2, The Brain, Prom Night 3, Popcorn, and Baby Geniuses 1 and 2. Another music credit here for Carl Zichwer. He was also a composer on Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things, Dead of Night, Black Christmas, Murder by Decree, Prom Night, and after this, Porky's 2 and A Christmas Story. He can also be seen playing the piano in Porky's in the film. The cinematographer here was Reginald H. Morris. Before this, he lit Black Christmas, Food of the Gods, Empire of the Ants, and so far on the show, Middle Age Crazy, Phobia, and Tribute. The editor here was Stan Cole. He previously cut The Neptune Factor, Black Christmas, and Salty, which is basically just Flipper with a seal instead of a dolphin.
It's called Salty?
Yeah. He also worked with Clark on Breaking Point and Murder by Decree. So far on the show, he has cut Klondike Fever and Phobia. Next season, he's back cutting Clark's double feature, Porky's 2 and A Christmas Story, and later still, he cuts Popcorn, Prom Night 4, and Baby Geniuses. Dan Monahan played Pee-wee. We saw him last as Jason in Only When I Laugh. No idea which character is Jason in that movie. It's not the girl's boyfriend. It's not the two college kids that hit on the mother-daughter at the restaurant, so I couldn't figure out who he is in that movie. He's back as Pee-wee in 2 more of these films. He reunites with director Clark on Porky's 2, From the Hip, and Baby Geniuses. Mark Herrier played Billy. He doesn't have many credits outside the Porky's trilogy, but he's in all 3. He was actually born the year the film takes place. Wyatt Knight played Tommy. Again, not much outside the Porky's films, but he does have a small background part in Baby Geniuses. Roger Wilson played Mickey. He was one of the co-ed lovers from the horror film that Travolta's doing sound on in Blowout. He's also in something called Young Lust, Thunder Alley, and of course Porky's 2 and 3. Cyril O'Reilly played Tim. We saw him last as a soldier in Airplane, and then Paul, Laurie's boyfriend, in Bloody Birthday. He's also the first of the guys to come back for the second, but not the third film in this series. Later, he's in Navy SEALs, The Philadelphia Experiment 2, and Black Dog.
Didn't know there was a Philadelphia Experiment 2.
Why would you keep experimenting with it after all those people got smashed into the ship hull with AIDS, right? Is that what that was about? Tony Ganios played Meat. Before this, he was Perry in The Wanderers. We've seen him now as a boxer who squares up with Tommy Lee Jones at the end of Backroads, and as Max Birnbaum, the ex-NFL player Mountain Man, who makes fast friends with John Belushi's reporter character in Continental Divide. He's back for both sequels and gets a great death scene in Die Hard 2, wherein Bruce Willis stabs an icicle through his eye socket.
Oh, nice.
That's
I know
Meat.
the exact scene.
Sadly, he was hospitalized with a spinal cord infection in February of this year and passed away shortly after of heart failure. Kaki Hunter played Wendy. So far on the show, she was the adorable groupie Lola Bouillabaisse in Rhodey, and Margot Kidder's younger sister in Willie and Phil, and also one of Richard Dreyfuss's nurses in Whose Life Is It Anyway? After this trilogy, she retired from acting to teach whitewater rafting. Kim Cattrall played Honeywell. Before this, she made an appearance on Colombo. We've seen her previously in director Clark's Tribute in 1980, and then as cult recruiter Ruthie in Ticket to Heaven. After this, she shows up in Mannequin, Big Trouble in Little China, Bonfire of the Vanities, and Star Trek VI: The Undiscovered Country. She reunited with Clark for Super Babies, and later she's Britney Spears' mom in Crossroads. All this on the path to her most famous role as Samantha Jones in 94 episodes of Sex and the City and a couple Sex and the City movies. Nancy Parsons played Balbricker. We've seen her now in Where the Buffalo Roam, Motel Hell, Smokey Bites the Dust, Honky Tonk Freeway, and Pennies from Heaven. She's probably best known for this character, which she plays again in Porky's 2 and 3. She's also in Sudden Impact, aka Dirty Harry 3, Steel Magnolias, and Ladybugs. Scott Colomby played Brian Schwartz. We saw him last as Tony D'Annunzio in Caddyshack. He also shows up in One Day at a Time as a love interest of Valerie Bertinelli's Barbara Cooper character. Boyd Gaines played Coach Brackett. He also showed up on One Day at a Time as a love interest of Valerie Bertinelli's Barbara Cooper character. We've seen him previously as Michael in Fame. Later he's in Sure Thing and The Goldfinch, but he's also a celebrated stage actor with 4 Tonys.
Oh.
He won all 4. He was nominated 5 times. He won 4 for his performances in The Heidi Chronicles, She Loves Me, Contact, and Gypsy. Doug McGrath played Coach Warren. Before this, he was a sergeant in Clark's Black Christmas. Later, he's in Outlaw Josie Wales, and so far on the show, Bronco Billy. Next season, he's Hitler in The Return of Captain Invincible, and later Pale Rider, Always, The Rocketeer, and Ghosts of Mars. Susan Clark played Cherry Forever, does not appear to be related to director Bob Clark. This is the third film we've covered to feature Susan Clark and her real-life husband, Alex Karras. Can you recall the other two films?
Oh, nuts.
What are the names again?
Susan Clark and Alex Karras.
We've done 2 other ones?
2 other films that feature both Susan Clark and Alex Karras.
Well, one was When Time Ran Out.
He was in that. She was not.
Ah, damn it.
She's married to Mr. Cotter in one of the movies that I'm talking about. How many movies have we covered with Mr. Cotter in them?
Just one.
And what was that called?
No idea.
Well, you started with the right syllable.
Nobody's Perfect.
That's it.
Wow, nice pull.
They're both in that. And then the next one was a 70s movie. It was actually before they met. And he's not in the movie.
What? Wait, I thought you said...
I said it features Susan Clark and Alex Karras.
Is there a character named Alex Karras?
He is referred to as himself in the dialogue of the film, but he's not in the movie. So it features the phrase Alex Karras, not the person Alex Karras.
Was it When Time Ran Out?
No, it's when Gene Hackman is making fun of some little statues behind someone's desk.
Don't you like him here?
I would if they didn't all remind me of Alex Karras.
The conversation?
Tribal statues that people are importing from overseas from a shipwreck.
Oh.
Is that Night Moves?
Night Moves is correct. And Susan
Another
Clark,
sound.
Yeah, Susan Clark plays Gene Hackman's cheating wife in that movie. The real-life couple also famously played the Papadopouloses in hundreds of episodes of Webster, and she was also in Clark's Murder by Decree and a Colombo episode. Art Hindle played Ted Jarvis. He's Chris Hayden in Black Christmas, Jeffrey in Invasion of the Body Snatchers, Frank Carveth in The Brood, and we saw him last as Chuck Norris's buddy AJ in The Octagon. That's one of several people who Chuck Norris is charged with protecting over the course of the film who come to brutally murdered ends. He's back for Porky's 2, and he's a shell-shocked Vietnam vet in MacGyver episode The Last Stand. Remember? He's the one who, he won't fly the planes.
Yeah.
Wayne Maunder played Kavanaugh. He plays Lieutenant Colonel Custer on a 60s show called Custer. Alex Karras played Sheriff Wallace. He played for the Detroit Lions from 1958 to 1970. We've seen him now in Blazing Saddles, When Time Ran Out, and Nobody's Perfect. And he's actually back next week in Victor Victoria. And I already mentioned Webster. Chuck Mitchell played Porky. We saw him before this in Don't Answer the Phone, The Hearse, American Pop, and he skips the second Porky's movie to come back for the third and later Hollywood Zap, which, as I mentioned, was advertised as Porky's 4 overseas. Eric Christmas played Mr. Carter, or Principal Carter. Before this, he's in the Andromeda Strain, Johnny Got His Gun, Harold and Maude, and a Colombo episode. We've seen him so far in the Changeling Seance scene, one of the neighborhood watch leaders in Hollywood Nights, Bruce Dern's dad in Middle Age Crazy. He plays a bigger part in the second Porky's film, sparring with the villains, and the students rally behind him. He's also back for the third film, and he passed away of natural causes in 2000 in beautiful Camarillo, California.
Aw.
Bill Hindman played Coach Goodenough. We've seen him so far in Nobody's Perfect with husband and wife Susan Clark and Alex Karras, and as a priest in Absence of Malice. Rod Ball played Steve. Before this, he's in current Patreon contestant Lenny. We've seen him now in The Island and Caddyshack, and he's back as Steve for the next Porky's. So, a lot of Florida movies. Caddyshack, The Island, Nobody's Perfect. Julian Bird played Cop Number 1. He's also in Nobody's Perfect as the mayor's driver. Ilse Earle played Mrs. Morris, that's Pee-wee's mother. She was Mary Lawson in Empire of the Ants, a nun in Absence of Malice. She's back for the next two Porky's, and her character is played by Colleen Camp in the remake spin-off Porky's Pimpin' Pee-wee. Jill Whitlow played Mindy, that's the girl who wants to know why they call meat meat. This was her first film. Later she's in Mask, Weird Science, and Night of the Creeps. I guess Weird Science, she's like the perfume salesman in the mall. Peter Conrad played Mule Train Driver. He's a little person who we've seen before in Funhouse, and he's back for Porky's 2 and Smokey and the Bandit 3. Smokey is the bandit. No, it's not that one. It's the other one. Butch Raymond played Deputy Number 1. He was a hangar guard in Flight of the Navigator, another Florida film. Aileen Simmons played Jackie. She was Nurse Peggy in Jaws of Satan earlier this season. And Max Wassa was a cheerleader uncredited. This was her first film, and she's also credited as porn actress in My Stepmother Was an Alien. I don't remember a porn actress in that.
Yeah. Oh, you know, I bet it's, I'm grasping at straws of where you would have seen that. Maybe when she's trying to choose an identity of what to look like as a woman.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah. I think that's everything for Porky's. If you have any thoughts you'd like to share, you can find all our socials at linktree/vintagevideopod. If you enjoy what we're doing, consider giving us a review on iTunes. I don't think it helps visibility, but it's good for morale. And if you really like the show, maybe you should join our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/vintagevideopodcast for access to all our monthly 70s reviews and a hand in choosing next month's film. Patrons are currently choosing between Blood for Dracula, aka Andy Warhol's Dracula, Confessions of a Window Cleaner, Earthquake, The Klansman, Lenny, The Little Prince, Murder on the Orient Express, Phantom of the Paradise, The Street Fighter, and A Woman Under the Influence for a 50th anniversary review next month. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you'll join us next time when we'll be discussing Victor Victoria, which IMDb describes like so. A struggling female soprano in 1934 Paris finally finds work after posing as a female impersonator, but it complicates her personal life when a visiting Chicago gangster finds himself inexplicably attracted to the seemingly male performer.